The Drexel Swing Mast is a state-of-the-art front-side loading lift truck with the versatility to perform all the tasks of 4 separate trucks. A rotating mast and fork assembly allow the operator to pick up loads from the front, side, or any intermediate position. And since the driver turns only the mast, not the entire truck, the Drexel Swing Mast can maneuver a standard pallet load in aisles as narrow as 54 inches. Although the Drexel Swing Mast offers a sophisticated array of material handling features, the operation of the vehicle is incredibly simple. This tape has been produced to educate and inform the driver of the basic operational procedures of the Drexel Swing Mast lift truck. Before operating the Drexel Swing Mast lift truck, it is imperative for all drivers to fully understand the safe operating practices of the vehicle. Although we will highlight some of the safety precautions, the objective of this videotape is to train the driver on the swing mast's operational procedures. We strongly recommend that all drivers attend a safety training program sponsored by their employer. To fully understand how the Drexel Swing Mast operates, let us begin by identifying and explaining the individual controls. First, the accelerator pedal. Mounted on the floor plate at the right of the operator's compartment, the accelerator pedal controls the speed of the vehicle. By depressing the pedal slowly, the vehicle will start smoothly and avoid any sudden jerks. Very light pressure on the accelerator pedal will produce slow, controlled movement of the truck, known as inching or creep speed in either the forward or reverse direction. As you will see later, this is useful in load handling. Located on the floor plate to the left of the accelerator is the brake pedal. Depressing the brake pedal will stop the forward and reverse motion of the vehicle. The directional control lever determines the direction that the vehicle will travel. To have the vehicle move forward, push the control away from the operator. To move in reverse, pull the control back toward the operator. In the neutral position, all power to the travel circuit is interrupted. The horn button is located in the center of the steering wheel. To use the horn, press directly on the cover. It's a good idea to slow down and sound the horn as you approach intersecting or blind corners. The key switch is a 2-position on-off switch located on the truck's instrument panel. When you park the truck, always remove the key to prevent unauthorized use of the truck. The battery capacity indicator provides the operator with a visual means of determining the condition of the battery being used to power the vehicle. It is designed to protect the battery from over-discharge and should be checked regularly. When the battery approaches 80% discharge, the light will come on, indicating it is time to charge the battery. If you ignore the light, the lift circuit will be interrupted and you will be unable to lift. The taillight switch, located on the dash panel, controls the on-off function of the taillight. Pulling the knob outward will turn the taillight on, while pushing the knob in will turn the light off. Turning the steering wheel in a clockwise direction produces right-hand turning, and counterclockwise turning produces a left-hand turn. Unlike an automobile, the steering wheel will not return to the neutral or straight-ahead position as you come out of a turn. You must steer into and out of each turn. The parking brake, located to the right of the 4 control levers, is engaged by pulling up and released by pushing the lever down. The operator should never leave the vehicle without the parking brake being engaged. Tension adjustment is provided by turning the knob at the top of the handle. However, tension should never be increased to the point where more than 25 pounds of pressure is required to release the parking brake. The seat switch is a safety precaution that prevents the operation of the lift truck when the driver is not in the proper position. With the key switch in the on position, the driver must be seated for the vehicle to operate. When the driver gets off the truck, the seat switch is also used to electrically return to neutral. When you remount the truck, you must move the directional control handle through the neutral position before power will be restored to the travel function. Different types of battery connectors are used, but the most common type simply plugs into a mating half on the truck and uses lever action to make or break the electrical connection. If the truck is to be left parked for any length of time, such as a lunch break or overnight, the battery should be disconnected. If the battery is to be charged, first disconnect the battery from the truck. Then plug the battery connector into the battery charging plug that is attached to the battery charger. Do not connect the charging plug from the charger directly into the truck connector. You will damage the truck's electrical system. Some models of Drexel swing mast trucks are equipped with a battery hold-down device which secures the battery in the truck. When changing batteries and at the beginning of each shift, you should make sure the hold-down device is in place and properly secured. All swing mast trucks have hour meters which measure the amount of time the truck is in service and is used to plan maintenance programs. On some models, the hour meter is located on the operator's console. On other models, the hour meter is located in the electrical compartment. Located to the right of the steering wheel are 4 levers that control the hydraulic movement of the mast and fork assembly. All 4 of these controls are clearly identified by international symbols, and you should familiarize yourself with their actions. The upper left lever is the lift control lever. This functions the same as on any standard powered industrial forklift truck. When pulled back towards the operator, the forks will lift. Pushing the lever forward will lower the forks. Be sure to never handle unstable or loosely stacked loads and always observe the lift truck's specified load rating. Located next to the lift control is the tilt control lever. This lever controls the full mast tilt feature of the truck and should be done slowly to avoid sudden load shifting. By pulling the lever back, the load will tilt toward the operator. Pushing the lever forward, the load will tilt away from the operator. It is important to note all forward tilting of the load mast should be done at floor level only or in the rack area for the deposit or retrieval of loads. The shift control lever controls the shift motion of the mast assembly. When the lever is moved forward, the mast assembly will move to the operator's left. By pulling the lever back, the operator is able to move the mast assembly to the right. The pivot control lever is unique to the Drexel swing mast lift truck. When the lever is pushed forward, the mast assembly will rotate clockwise away from the operator. This allows the truck to be operated as a side loader. By pulling the lever back, the mast will rotate counterclockwise toward the operator. And finally, the capacity plate which displays all of the lift truck's pertinent information and capacity ratings. For your own safety, it is important for you to understand all the information on the capacity plate and the warning and caution plates. The capacity plate tells you model number and serial number, battery voltage and amp hour rating, the allowable battery weight range. Never install a battery with a service weight that does not fall within the specified range. The actual battery service weight is stamped into each battery near the lifting eyes. Truck weight with and without a battery. The fork carriage type. Date the truck was manufactured. Capacity ratings, A, with forks, or B, with a specified attachment. Never exceed the rated capacity listed on the capacity plate. In order to determine if you are exceeding the rated capacity, you need to know 4 things. 1. What does the load weigh? Does it exceed the maximum capacity marked on the plate? 2. What is dimension A? Does it exceed the dimension marked in the plate? Dimension A is the horizontal load center, or horizontal center of gravity of the load. For a uniformly distributed load, the horizontal load center is 1/2 the overall length of the load. You can use a tape measure to check this dimension. For example, the load center of a 48-inch long load is 24 inches. 3. What is dimension B? How high do you have to lift the load? Does it exceed the fork height stamped on the capacity plate? 4. What is dimension C? Does it exceed the dimension marked on the plate? Dimension C is the vertical load center or vertical center of gravity. The vertical load center can also be checked with a tape measure, and for a uniformly distributed load will be equal to 1/2 the load's vertical height. If any of the 4 items exceed the markings on the nameplate, you will be overloading the truck, which could result in property damage, injury, or death. Don't overload the truck. Read and understand all of the warning and caution tags. If you are not certain of the meaning of these warnings or cautions, review them with your supervisor. The warnings and cautions are there for your protection. Read, understand, and most important, observe all warnings and cautions at all times. Your life and the lives of your fellow employees may depend on your following these instructions, warnings, and cautions. As we mentioned earlier, the mast shift and pivot control functions are unique to the Drexel unit. Once you have mastered their actions individually, you are ready to tackle their simultaneous operation in the handling and maneuvering of loads. In an open area free of obstructions, proceed as follows. With the mast in the forward position and fully shifted to the right, push both the pivot and shift control levers forward. You will notice that the clockwise rotation of the mast and left-hand shifting actions will not be synchronized, and one function will bottom out before the other. Practice simultaneous feathering of the control levers to achieve a smooth, synchronized movement. Once you have mastered this action, perform the same exercise, starting with the mast pivoted clockwise 90 degrees and fully shifted to the left. You will notice that this movement will also require a simultaneous feathering technique to produce a smooth movement. Now repeat the 2 previous functions with a load on the mast forks. The next steps in the operating procedure is load deposit and load retrieval. It is advisable to practice this operation in a narrow aisle, 60 to 66 inches wide, at the second load level. As you slowly approach the rack opening, raise the load to the proper elevation, keeping the truck parallel to the rack, with approximately 4-inch clearance on the right side. Having slowed to a creep speed, begin by shifting the load to the left. Then, rotate the mast and fork assembly to approximately 45 degrees. As the forward right corner of the load clears the rack vertical member, stop the shift motion and continue to rotate the load away from the vehicle until it is perpendicular to the rack. At this point, stop creeping forward, shift the load to the right until it is completely in the rack opening. Check the position of the load within the rack. You may need to move the truck forward or backward a few inches to properly position the load. We suggest you keep the load no more than 1 to 2 inches away from the vertical rack member. Also, check that the load is positioned properly over the front and back load support beams. Carefully lower the load onto the load support beams and continue to lower the forks until they are centered in the fork opening. Check the fork level indicator to see if the forks are tilted forward or backward. Adjust the tilt until the forks are level. The procedure for retrieving the forks from a load that has been positioned in a rack is slightly different. Lower the forks a little so they are free in the pallet opening. Side shift to the left and bring the forks approximately halfway out of the pallet. Put the truck in reverse and slowly move away from the load. At the same time, pivot the mast toward the truck. As the fork tips emerge, begin shifting to the right while continuing to pivot the mast until it is in the front position. Lower the forks to the travel position and move away from the rack area. To retrieve a load, begin with the mast in the front position. As you approach the load with the truck parallel to the load face and approximately 4 inches away from the rack, side shift to the left and pivot out slightly to bring the forks into view. Raise the forks to the pallet opening, with the tip of the right fork at the edge of the pallet. Move the truck forward slowly, while at the same time rotating the mast away from the driver. This action causes the forks to enter the pallet. Once the mast has rotated the full 90 degrees and the forks are centered in the pallet opening, shift the mast assembly to the right. Now the forks are completely entered in the pallet. To retrieve a load, Insert the forks into the pallet and raise the load approximately 2 inches to clear the rack horizontal members. You may want to use the rearward mast tilt feature to lift the load away from the rack. Start to shift the loaded mast to the left with the truck traveling in reverse at a slow speed. Utilize all of the left-hand shift motion until the load face nearest the operator is clear of the vertical rack member. With the truck still moving slowly in a reverse direction, begin feathering the pivot and shift controls until the load is completely out and parallel to the storage rack. Once the load is in the forward position, lower the load to approximately 12 inches off the floor and proceed in either direction. The final step we want to mention in operating the Drexel swing mast lift truck is the positioning of the fork assembly. When lifting conventional pallet loads, it is important to position the forks evenly on the carriage, approximately 2/3 of the width of the pallet opening. On loads that feature fork pockets, the forks should be centered in the pocket opening. We hope that this driver training program has helped you to understand the basic operating procedures of the Drexel swing mast lift truck. We believe that with a little practice, you will soon be able to handle the swing mast proficiently and realize the numerous benefits that the truck has to offer. When you are sitting behind the wheel of a Drexel swing mast lift truck, you are driving the most versatile vehicle on the market today. For further details and/or clarification of any points discussed in this videotape, refer to the Swing Mast Operator's Manual.